Hi everyone, it's Ari, and today I'm going to talk about a few other recent books I read. So to kick it off, I'm going to talk about Summer in Greece by Patricia Wilson. This was, a summer book, which is why I read it, tried to read it in summer. And it's a historical fiction book set in Greece, actually in a kind of unknown island which I haven't heard of before, so that was kind of exciting. And then also in 2019, where we follow our protagonist now. So in the first timeline in 1916, we follow a girl named Gertie. She's the youngest of three siblings and the daughter of a doctor, the town's doctor. And when the First World War comes, her sister enrolls as a nurse and her brother enrolls as a soldier. Unfortunately, they both die, which is why she decides that she wants to become a nurse as well, in honor of her sister. So she actually gets to go on Britannia, which was a quite large ship filled with nurses. However, this ship sank, which really happened, so it's not a surprise. But the book kind of gives an alternative reason to why it sank, which has something to do with Gertie, and we kind of get to see how that affects her. We learn about her relationship with injured soldier who she kind of developed feelings for, but not quite. And then we meet her when she is going and land in Greece and meets a quite charming young Greek, and how their relationship forms, and just how Gertie tries to balance the two of them and the tragedies of the past and the guilt she's carrying. And now we meet, or in 2019, we meet Shelley, who is Gertie's granddaughter, and she discovers that Gertie recorded what happened on Britannia and left it as voice cassettes to her. So that's actually how we learn about Gertie's story, through these tapes. But Shelley, she is also carrying a lot of guilt for something that happened in the past, which reveals itself the further we get into the story. And we get to see her travel to Greece to experience the island where her mother was, great-grandmother was. I thought it was an interesting read. I really liked Gertie's timeline. I wasn't quite as invested in Shelley's timeline, but I think you always will have that either or when it comes to historical fiction. I thought mystery, if you can say it as that, in Shelley's timeline wasn't really that exciting. It wasn't that mysterious. I kind of guessed what the fuss was and how it came together. But nonetheless, I liked it. I especially liked to hear about the Britannic and the Greek island that I haven't heard about. Want to go to Greece now. Want to learn more about Britannia. But I think I would give it 4 out of 5 stars. And next, is Empire Storm by Sarah J. Maas. I loved this book. I really, really loved it. I thought it was just amazing. I liked all the books, but I think this especially just captivated me. When I read about 100 or 150 pages, I didn't feel like a lot of happened, but still I was so invested because of the characters. And I think Sarah J. Maas just creates really amazing characters. And in this book, just how they interacted, the dialogues, and especially the relationship between Rowan and Aileen, I love it. And I thought it was fun to see more of Lysandra, as well as Aiden, Manan, and how she kind of got, you know, if you read the book, you know. And Dorian, of course. I really liked it, and I think most people have read it. If you haven't, read it. It's a chunker. My copy is about 900 pages, but it's so, you don't even notice how long it is, because you get so invested and you get so sucked in, you just have to keep reading. I had a few long nights with this, and the last section of the book, the last 30 pages or something, I cried so much because it was so good and it was so heartbreaking, and May's revelation, it just broke my heart, especially when Rowan said what he said at the end, and I remember I said to my mother, because she was beside me and I was crying, and she asked what was wrong, and I don't think I want to read this series anymore, it's too heartbreaking. But then the next day I went out and bought the rest of the series, so I'm going to. But it was really, really good. Really enjoyed it. 5 stars, of course. But if you haven't read this, it's about Celine Sedortian, who fights to become the Queen's assassin. And then the whole series shifts after book 2, but book 1 is good, book 2 is good. The rest of the series after that just gets better and better and better and better and better, and I can't wait to read the rest. So truly amazing. Then I read 2 Norwegian books. So the first is Veien vi må gå by Katrine Wessel-aas. This translates to The Way We Have to Go, the road we have to take. I presume it's better English. This is the 10th installment, I believe, in Familien Winter, the family Winter. I kind of like this, or actually not kind of, I like this series. It's a really quick read, really easy reading. But we follow a family, one of the high society families in Trondheim in the late 1800s, start of 1900s. Especially in this book, we follow the aftermath after a death in the family, and just how that affects them, what people think, the dynamics. I actually like this better than, or at least a little bit better, yeah. Because we got to follow a few perspectives that we haven't seen before, we haven't heard from before, and I thought that was interesting. We follow Babette and Christian, and we haven't really heard from them before, which I thought was really interesting to see how they thought about returning and being a part of the family again, and just everything around it. Also see how they really communicating as well because of something that happened in Africa when they lived there. But I thought it was interesting, I thought it was good. However, I am really excited when the last book is released in springtime, because it's fine, I like the series, but 11 books is start to get a little too much to me, especially when every new book is really expensive. Yeah, but I liked it. I think it's 3-4 stars, 3.5. Yeah, I also really like these covers. I think they're really beautiful, all of them. And the last book is a non-fiction book, which, yeah, by the way, the last was historical fiction. It is using. But this was non-fiction. This book I'm going to talk about now. I don't really read a lot of non-fiction, but when I do, it's memoirs, and this was a memoir. I wanted to read it for a long time, but I haven't bought it, and then my mother came home with it because she had lent it from her boss. It's kind of been circulating on her work now. But yeah, it's Minskjell by Abid Raja, and Historie om frigjøring, so it translates to My Fault, a history of liberation. Abid Raja is a quite well-known politician in Norway. He was the Minister of Culture in the last government, and he is a really fun guy, or at least I think. I listened to a few interviews with him about this book, which is why I wanted to read it. He always seems kind of silly, but I think that's his persona. But in this book, you really get to learn about Abid, not just a fun politician or a Pakistani Norwegian Muslim who is quite up in a game in politics. It was a really easy read because of the way he writes, but at the same time it was quite hard read because of what he writes, if that makes any sense. But Abid, he was born without a butthole, which is dangerous. He had to be operated on the day he was born, and when he was done in surgery, his parents never came to get him because he was a monster in his father's eyes. He was a disgrace. He wasn't worthy of living. So he became the mascot of this hospital for several months. I think he was living in a drawer of one of the nurses at the hospital for 4 months. When his mother finally came to get him, she couldn't speak the language. She couldn't speak Norwegian, only Punjabi. Then he got taken home, and he was really badly abused, both physically and psychologically. His father always told him how wrong he was, and he was always ashamed for his condition. He didn't want to sleep with his siblings He had 3 siblings, and he didn't want to sleep with them because he always smelled, and he had a really bad conscience. He was beaten and just had a really tough life. When he started, I don't know what it's in America, it's perhaps freshman year, he eventually told his teacher that his father was beating him, and he got sent to child. What's that in English? Child custody, I think. I don't know. Someone who is supposed to help children who comes from home where they can't really take care of them. However, they couldn't really take care of him either, so he got in a really bad boy gang, robbed people, chased people, and got really lost for a few months. But he eventually came home, got even more mishandled, or not, abused, got sent to Pakistan to learn some manners, came back home, started one of the hardest high schools to get into, built himself a really solid career as an advocate, as an attorney, became popular in politics. He fought really hard to get to marry his wife. He fought 5 years to get to marry her because his father didn't want him to marry his wife because of a caste system. And it's a really moving story. I think he went through so much, and he also have learned so much. He even writes it himself that he had to learn so much because he was the minister for equal rights between women and men in Norway. However, he was kind of undermining his wife the entire time. She had to ask him to do everything, to go out with his friends, to be at a seminar and everything, and he didn't really reflect on it because it was his culture. That was how he was taught, how he was raised. But then one day it just clicked for him that this wasn't fair. He was undermining his wife while preaching equal rights, and he had to do something about it because he didn't want his daughters to grow up never really having a choice. He wanted to give them a choice, to give them opportunities as any other children, no matter race, ethnicity, gender, sexuality, none of that. So he kind of had to take a grip on himself and clean things up, and yeah, it's a really good story, and I really admire him for writing this book because he really strips himself, and that's not an easy thing to do. So I highly recommend it to any Norwegian. Really, really good. I really, really liked it. I don't really know if I can rate it because it's someone's life, but if I would, I think I would give it 5 stars because it was really brave, and I really admire Abid for doing this, especially as a really known Norwegian politician. Yeah, I really wanted to read it. I'm happy I did, and the reason I read it now is because his sister just released her memoir, Abidaraya, Frihetens øyeblikk, moment of liberty. I am really looking forward to reading this as well. And this is Abid's big sister who actually got shipped off to Pakistan in an arranged marriage to a close family member. She didn't want to, and her husband abused her. She wasn't treated well by her parents, or her father, nor her big brother, I believe. So I'm really looking forward to reading this as well. Not because but because I think it will be a really hard-hitting story as well. So my mother said it was really good because she just finished this. So yeah, that was all the books I had for now. If you noticed, I don't really do monthly wrap-ups because I don't read as much when I am attending university, and I like to keep it short and sweet. Not that I ever do so, but I hope that that like 4 books or so is okay for you. Yeah, that was all for now. I hope you enjoyed, and if you do, please be sure to comment and subscribe. Tell me what you read recently. If you agree with me on Empire Stone Studies, that's an amazing book, because I am really looking forward to the rest of the series. Yeah, that was all for now. Bye!